Tim Wilson from Melbourne. Tim Wilson, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
The National Energy Guarantee. Now, do you think this has the potential to end the energy and climate wars, not only between, not sort of as far as the parties are concerned, but also within your own party?
Well, what the framework of the National Energy Guarantee does is provide a framework for reliable and affordable electricity for Australian households and critically for Australian businesses to make sure they can continue to employ people and be competitive in the international market. So by putting an expectation that there must be reliable power, there must be affordable power, and we also must cut greenhouse gas emissions in the process as part of a package deal, we're going to deliver a much better outcome for Australians, households, businesses, and also take the whole country with us rather than prioritising one part of the policy or another.
There has been a mixed reaction to it, but can you give us some sort of insight into the Liberal Party room, and do you feel as though every member has been satisfied by this?
I think it's quite clear that members are very satisfied with the framework that has been laid out that will deliver more affordable and reliable energy for households and businesses. And I think that's what people are looking for, is stability and predictability in the market. That's not just what Liberal Party MPs are looking for, coalition MPs, the Parliament, the nation. It's critically what business has been looking for, particularly to make sure they make investments in energy generation so we can deliver on those outcomes for the nation of reliable and affordable energy.
You would imagine that consumers will be persuaded when they start to see energy prices fall. How, though, will the government convince all members of COAG? It's got to get through, obviously, COAG.
Well, it does need to work with COAG, and that's what the Energy Minister, Josh Frydenberg, is going to be doing with the Prime Minister over coming weeks. But in the end, the states have got to make a choice. Do they want reliable or affordable energy, or do they want a continuation of the situation we have now where there have been increases in prices? There was 100% increases under the previous government, this government, because of the investment challenge we've had around getting new energy into the market and the decommissioning of existing power stations. There's been a continuation of those price rises. So do they want to stop that? Do they want reliable power? You know, South Australia has seen the full consequences where they've had blackouts if they don't come on board and support the National Energy Guarantee, and they're a very serious risk in other parts of the country in this coming summer. So I would have thought if they're standing up for the best interests of their states, of their populations, of households and of industry, they'll jump on board.
There is some concern that the NEG could increase the market power of the retailers and in particular shift the bargaining power to those sellers. Do you have any concerns in that front?
Well, when you have retailers competing, you generally get lower prices. So, no, I don't have a concern about that. And one of the things that the National Energy Guarantee is focused on is trying to get rid of the purchasing by retailers of energy at peak prices. So when there's high demand, the price goes up because the generators extract more value and turn around to the retailer and say, we demand higher prices for these short-term costs that we're incurring. What the National Energy Guarantee does is say those should be bought on forward contracts and long-term contracts, so it will smooth out the price. So in the middle of summer you won't get prices moving like this, it'll be more like this and consistent, and you'll get a better outcome for households and industry in both reliable and affordable power.
Over the next decade, do you see a more or less renewable energy entering the system?
I see more renewable energy of all varieties entering the market, as well as hopefully reinvestment and co-location of new existing power stations, whether it be coal or gas or anything else, so that we have what we need to deliver a reliable and affordable energy grid to the Australian households, while also making sure we're reducing our greenhouse gases at the same time. I mean, turning around to existing coal-fired power stations and getting reinvestment so that they're cleaner but deliver reliable and affordable energy is a good outcome while cutting greenhouse gas emissions. Co-locating a new type of energy generation with existing energy generation, because the network infrastructure's there, will deliver more reliable, more affordable and cleaner energy. So this is a policy that's designed to achieve a win-win of the objectives that everybody wants to see.
Tim Wilson, let's move to the issue of assisted dying legislation having passed the Victorian lower house this past week. Do you support the bill?
Well, I have mixed views, honestly. I've looked at the media reports. I haven't gone through line by line the legislation. I've always had a view that People should be able to take control of their lives, and when people are in a situation where they're terminally ill and they're not in a position to be able to change those circumstances and they're facing a significant amount of pain, we have to respect the fact that people may want to end it in a way that is proportionate, measured, sensible, but there need to be very strong safeguards. From the media reports I've seen, those safeguards broadly seem to be in place, but the critical issue that some people have raised is whether the federal government is going to intervene. And I would oppose any intervention or any attempt by the federal parliament to override Victorian state law. We're a sovereign state. The state parliament is ultimately the body that is entitled to make its decision on these matters. It's not up to the federal parliament to override them.
Let me put it in context, as you being a Victorian resident and also a former Human Rights Commissioner, are you satisfied with the safeguards in place?
Well, I always think talking about the beginning or the end of life through a human rights framework is actually normally pretty sketchy. I think it's better to talk about what's moral, what's just, and what respects the freedom of people to make decisions about the end of their life. There are plenty of other options available on the table before people jump to the point that this legislation enables. Advanced care directives, palliative care, and I'd much rather see people take those choices. But when it comes down to ultimately people facing a very specific circumstance, and I think it will be used very rarely, I'm not sure it's the role of the state or myself or anybody else to decide the means in which people are able to end their life to avoid indignity and remove pain.
All right, just finally, I did want to touch on the citizenship laws. Is it back to the drawing board for the Immigration Minister, Peter Dutton, as far as those changes, in particular the English competency is concerned?
I don't think so at all. The citizenship laws were put to the Parliament. They've been exhausted, shall we say, through the parliamentary process for the moment. It's really a process of the Immigration Minister, Peter Dutton, sitting down, having a dialogue with those MPs who have differences of opinion. Some people want higher hurdles to citizenship. Some people want lower hurdles to citizenship, and particularly around the English language test. I've got to say there's a lot of hypocrisy on the part of the Australian Labor Party in opposition. Many of their spokespeople, particularly Tony Burke, went out and actually argued for higher English language tests because English language is the best pathway or the best tool we know to make sure that new migrants go on and integrate successfully in society, into institutions, into the economy, and that's what we should want. We should want successful new Australians, and that's what this bill is designed to achieve.
So you don't see it as unnecessarily discriminatory?
Not at all. I mean, every country has a right to decide who becomes a citizen, to set reasonable tests around where that should be set. But in the end, as a country, it should be in our interest and it should be in their interest to make sure they successfully integrate so they can be full participants in our society, so they can engage in business, they can engage in the job market, so they can engage in civil society institutions and be full participants in our great nation.
Federal Liberal MP Tim Wilson, thanks for joining us.